The massive doors of the Galactic Empire's military headquarters slid open with a soft hiss. Commander Zektor stood at attention, his forearms clasped behind his scaled back. His reptilian eyes narrowed as he watched the new arrivals walk through the entrance. These were the humans, the newest species to join the Empire's vast military coalition. Two figures entered the grand hall. They moved with a strange, fluid grace that made Zektor's scales prickle with unease. The humans wore dark tactical suits that seemed to absorb the light around them. Their faces were partially hidden behind specialized helmets with single red visors that glowed faintly in the dim lighting. "Welcome to the Crimson Fleet," Zektor said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded warriors from a dozen different species. "I am Commander Zektor, head of special operations for this sector." The taller human stepped forward and removed his helmet. A scarred face emerged, weathered by what looked like years of combat. His hair was cut short, military style, and his eyes held a cold intensity that made even Zektor, a veteran of countless battles, feel slightly uncomfortable. "Sergeant Marcus Kane," the human said, his voice low and measured. "This is my spotter, Corporal Elena Vasquez." The second human removed her helmet, revealing sharp features and calculating eyes that seemed to take in every detail of the room in a single glance. She nodded, but said nothing. Zektor had read the reports about humans. They were considered a minor species, having only achieved faster-than-light travel within the last century. Their home planet, Earth, was located in a backwater sector of the galaxy. The Empire had accepted their military assistance more as a diplomatic gesture than out of any real need for their services. "I understand you specialize in, what do you call it?" "Sniping," Zektor asked, trying not to let his skepticism show. Most species in the Empire favored energy weapons and massive firepower. The idea of precision shooting seemed quaint, almost primitive. Marcus nodded. "Long-range elimination of high-value targets. We can operate behind enemy lines for extended periods without support." "Interesting," Zektor mused. He gestured with one of his forearms toward a holographic display that materialized in the center of the room. "We're currently engaged in a conflict with the Vorthan Collective on the planet Kepler 442b. They've established a series of fortified positions that our conventional forces haven't been able to breach." The hologram showed a barren, mountainous planet with several glowing red dots indicating enemy strongholds. Zektor noticed both humans studying the display intently, their eyes tracking over every detail. "The Vorthans are a warrior species," Zektor continued. "They stand nearly 3 meters tall, have natural armor plating, and their reflexes are among the fastest in the known galaxy. Our assault teams have suffered heavy casualties trying to take their positions." Elena finally spoke, her voice calm and analytical. "What's the atmospheric composition?" Zektor was surprised by the technical question. "Nitrogen-oxygen mix, similar to most habitable worlds. Gravity is 1.3 times standard." "Why do you ask?" The two humans exchanged a glance that Zektor couldn't quite interpret. "We'll need to adjust our calculations," Marcus said simply. Over the next few hours, Zektor briefed them on the mission parameters. The Vorthans had captured a crucial mining facility that produced rare elements essential for the Empire's starship drives. 3 previous assault attempts had failed, resulting in hundreds of casualties. "We're planning another frontal assault in 72 hours, Zektor explained. "Your role would be to provide support from a distance. Perhaps you could eliminate a few sentries to help our main force." "With respect, Commander," Marcus interrupted, "that's not how we operate." Zektor's neck frills extended slightly, a sign of irritation. "Then how do you operate, Sergeant?" Marcus walked over to the holographic display and began manipulating it with surprising familiarity. The image zoomed in on the Vorthan positions, revealing detailed topography. "Elena and I will insert here," He pointed to a ridge line nearly 5 kilometers from the nearest enemy position. "We'll need 48 hours to survey and prepare. No frontal assault, no support required." 5 kilometers? Zektor couldn't hide his disbelief. "The maximum effective range of our best marksmen is 2 kilometers, and that's with computer-assisted targeting systems." Elena pulled out a small device and projected her own hologram. It showed what appeared to be a primitive projectile weapon, long and sleek with a large scope mounted on top. "This is a modified Barrett M82 anti-materiel rifle," she explained. "Fires a 50 caliber round at 853 meters per second. With environmental calculations and proper positioning, Marcus can accurately engage targets at ranges exceeding 4 kilometers." The room fell silent. Several other Empire officers had gathered to observe the briefing, and Zektor could sense their skepticism. The Thraxian general in the corner actually chuckled, a sound like grinding stone. 4 kilometers with a projectile weapon? The general scoffed. "Impossible. Energy dissipation alone would—" "Energy weapons dissipate," Marcus said quietly. "Bullets don't." The next morning, Zektor watched from the command center as the 2 humans prepared for their mission. Their equipment seemed almost laughably primitive compared to the Empire's advanced technology. No shields, no power armor, just their strange rifles and basic survival gear. "I still don't understand why they refused our equipment," Lieutenant Vara, a blue-skinned Altarian, commented from beside him. "Our adaptive camouflage systems are the finest in the galaxy." "They said it would interfere with their methods," Zektor replied, though he shared her confusion. On the screen, they watched Marcus and Elena board a small transport that would drop them at their chosen insertion point. The humans moved with an economy of motion that spoke of long practice. "Betting pool says they don't last 6 hours," someone muttered from the back of the room. "I'll take that bet," Zektor said, surprising himself. Something about these humans intrigued him, though he couldn't say what. The transport lifted off, disappearing into the orange sky of Kepler 442b. For the next several hours, there was no communication from the sniper team. This was expected. They had insisted on radio silence unless absolutely necessary. Zektor tried to focus on other matters, but found himself returning to the command center repeatedly to check for updates. The Vorthon positions remained unchanged on the scanner, their soldiers moving about their fortifications with casual confidence. It was nearly sunset when the first report came in. Not from the humans, but from a surveillance drone monitoring the Vorthon base. "Sir," the drone operator, a insectoid Zephyrin, chittered excitedly, "I'm detecting an anomaly. One of the Vorthon sentries just disappeared." "Disappeared? He was at his post one moment, then gone the next. No energy discharge, no explosion, nothing on any of our sensors." Zektor leaned forward, studying the feed. The drone's high-resolution cameras showed the sentry post clearly. There was indeed no sign of the guard who had been there moments before. "Could be a shift change," Vara suggested. "Negative," the operator replied. "Vorthons maintain overlapping shifts. The replacement should have arrived before—" He stopped mid-sentence. "Another one. Eastern Tower. The guard is down." This time they caught a glimpse of it. The Vorthon sentry was standing at his post when suddenly his head snapped back. He crumpled to the floor of the tower, dark blood pooling beneath him. "By the void," someone whispered. "Did you see any projectile?" "Negative. Running sensor analysis now." Over the next hour, they watched in growing amazement as sentry after sentry fell. There was no pattern they could discern, no way to predict who would be next. The Vorthans began to panic, pulling back from exposed positions, shouting orders in their guttural language. Then the real demonstration began. A Vorthon officer emerged from the command bunker, his golden armor identifying him as high-ranking. He was surrounded by a squad of elite guards, their weapons scanning for threats. "Distance to the human position?" Zektor asked. 4.7 kilometers, sir. The officer made it 3 steps before he fell. No sound, no warning. His guards scattered, seeking cover, but it didn't matter. One by one, with methodical precision, they were eliminated. The command center had gone completely silent. Every officer present watched the tactical display with a mixture of awe and growing unease. In less than 2 hours, the humans had eliminated over 30 Vorthan soldiers, including their entire command structure. How? Vera breathed. How are they doing this? A communication channel opened, crackling with static. Marcus's voice came through, calm and professional. Sergeant Kane to command. Primary objectives neutralized. Vorthan forces are in full retreat. Recommend you send in ground forces to secure the facility. Zektor found his voice. Sergeant, this is Commander Zektor. Confirm Vorthan retreat. What is your tactical assessment? There was a pause. Sir, the Vorthans are abandoning the facility. They've lost all senior leadership and approximately 40% of their garrison. Elena counts 43 confirmed eliminations. 43. Zektor felt his scales ripple involuntarily. 2 humans with primitive projectile weapons had accomplished what 3 full assault battalions had failed to do. Understood, Sergeant. Remain in position. We're sending in the occupation force. Copy that. Kane out. The channel closed, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Finally, the Thraxian general who had scoffed earlier spoke up. Commander Zektor, I formally request all sensor data from this engagement. My government will want to know how this was possible. Similar requests came from every other species representative present. Zektor approved them all, his mind racing with the implications. The victory at Kepler 442b spread through the Galactic Empire's military network like wildfire. Within days, every commander in the fleet had reviewed the footage, analyzed the sensor data, and come to the same unsettling conclusion. They had severely underestimated humanity's capacity for warfare. Commander Zektor found himself in a conference room aboard the flagship Eternal Vigilance, facing a gathering of the Empire's highest-ranking military officials. The Emperor's own military advisor, an ancient Celestari whose crystalline form glowed with inner light, presided over the meeting. Explain, the Celestari commanded, its voice resonating through harmonics that made Zektor's bones vibrate. How did 2 primitive humans accomplish what our finest warriors could not? Zektor activated the holographic display, showing the battlefield recordings. The humans call it sniping, Excellence. It's a combat doctrine that emphasizes patience, precision, and psychological warfare. Psychological warfare. Admiral Thrace, a 4-eyed Volcon, leaned forward. They simply shot the enemy. Where is the psychology in that? Watch the pattern, Zektor instructed. He highlighted the sequence of eliminations on the display. They didn't just randomly target Vorthans. They eliminated them in a specific order designed to create maximum confusion and fear. First, the isolated sentries, creating uncertainty. Then they left gaps, long periods where nothing happened, letting paranoia build. When they finally struck at the command structure, the garrison was already psychologically compromised. The room filled with murmurs of discussion. The Celestari raised one crystalline appendage for silence. Bring these humans before us. I would understand their methods better. An hour later, Marcus and Elena stood before the assembled military leadership of the Galactic Empire. They had cleaned up since their mission, but still wore their simple tactical gear rather than dress uniforms. Zektor noticed several officers shifting uncomfortably at the humans' casual confidence in the presence of such authority. Sergeant Kane, the Celestari began, your accomplishments on Kepler 442b were impressive. We would know more about your species' approach to warfare. Marcus stood at ease, his posture relaxed but ready. What would you like to know, sir? Your weapons. They are primitive by our standards, yet proved devastatingly effective. Explain. Elena stepped forward, producing a single bullet from her pocket. She placed it on the conference table where it rolled slightly before coming to rest. This is a match-grade 50 caliber round, she explained. It weighs 750 grains and travels at supersonic speed. When it strikes a target, it transfers approximately 11,000 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. Kinetic energy? The Vulcan admiral seemed puzzled. No plasma? No directed energy? Pure physics, Marcus confirmed. Force equals mass times acceleration. Simple, reliable, and unaffected by shield harmonics or energy-dampening fields. The Thraxian general who had witnessed the first briefing spoke up. You said you could engage at 4 kilometers. Our analysis suggests your shots came from even further. What is the maximum range of these bullets? Marcus and Elena exchanged another of their unreadable glances. The record-confirmed kill shot by a human sniper was 3,540 meters, Elena said quietly. Achieved by a Canadian Special Forces operator in 2017 Earth calendar. That's in Earth gravity and atmosphere. With adjustments for local conditions, we can extend that significantly. But that's not what you really want to know, Marcus added, his voice carrying an edge that made several officers straighten in their seats. You want to know about our kill counts. The Celestari's glow intensified. You are perceptive, human. Yes. The efficiency you demonstrated suggests extensive experience. The Empire keeps detailed records of our warriors' combat accomplishments. What are yours? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was flat, emotionless. My personal confirmed count is 347. The room went utterly silent. Even species without traditional respiratory systems seemed to hold their breath. 300... Admiral Thrace's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. In how many engagements? 18 months of continuous operations in Afghanistan, Syria, and other terrestrial combat zones, Marcus replied. Elena's count stands at 198. Terrestrial, the Celestari mused. You mean these were conflicts on your own world, against your own species? Yes, sir. The implications hung heavy in the air. The Empire's various species had fought each other before unification, but the idea of such lethal expertise being honed in intra-species conflict was disturbing. Tell us about human warfare, the Celestari commanded. Help us understand how your species developed such specialized killers. Elena pulled out her datapad and projected a holographic timeline. Human recorded history spans approximately 5,000 years. Conservative estimates indicate we've been in armed conflict for 4,700 of those years. Images flashed across the display, ancient battles with swords and spears, the trenches of World War I, the devastation of World War II, urban warfare in crumbling cities. We've refined the art of killing to a science, Elena continued, her clinical tone at odds with the horrific images. Every advancement in technology has been weaponized. When we developed flight, we immediately built bombers. When we split the atom, we built bombs that could level cities. And snipers? Zector asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. Marcus took over the presentation. The role of the marksman in human warfare dates back centuries, but modern sniping emerged during our industrial age. One human with the right skills and position could change the course of a battle. He brought up a new image, a grainy photograph of a man in winter clothing. Simo Heha, Finnish sniper during what we call the Winter War. 542 confirmed kills in less than 100 days. No scope, just iron sights, in temperatures that would kill most species here. The display cycled through more images, more names, more numbers. Each one a human who had turned long-range killing into an art form. Carlos Hathcock, 93 confirmed kills, including one at 2,286 meters with a scope mounted on a heavy machine gun. Vasily Zaitsev, 242 kills in the Battle of Stalingrad. Chris Kyle, 160 confirmed kills in Iraq. Enough, the Celestari interrupted. Its glow had dimmed notably. We understand. Your species has extensive experience in this form of combat. That's not the part that should concern you, Marcus said quietly. Every head in the room turned to him. What should concern us, human? The Celestari asked. These numbers? These legends? They're from our conventional wars. The conflicts where we followed rules, where we treated enemies as combatants deserving of quick, clean deaths. Marcus's eyes swept across the assembled aliens. But humanity has another form of sniper. The ones we don't talk about. The ones whose kill counts we don't record because their missions never officially happened. Elena touched his arm lightly, but Marcus continued. I operated under official military protocols, rules of engagement, chain of command, but Earth has shadow operators, assassins who've spent decades eliminating targets in complete secrecy. Men and women who've toppled governments with a single bullet, who've prevented wars by removing the right person at the right time. And their effectiveness? Admiral Thrace asked, though he sounded like he didn't really want to know. Unknown, Marcus said simply. If they're doing their job right, you never know they existed, but conservative estimates suggest some have elimination counts in the thousands. The conference room remained silent for a long moment. Finally, the Celestari spoke. Commander Zektor, you will assign the human sniper team to our most critical operations. Their methods will be studied and, if possible, adapted for our use. It paused, its crystalline form shifting slightly. And you will inquire if Earth has more of these specialists willing to serve the Empire. As the meeting dispersed, Zektor found himself walking alongside the two humans. The corridors of the flagship seemed different now, full of shadows and potential sightlines he'd never noticed before. Sergeant Kane, he said carefully, that information about your shadow operators, was that meant as a warning? Marcus stopped walking and turned to face him. For the first time since they'd met, the human smiled. It wasn't a comforting expression. Commander, you asked us to join your Empire's military. We agreed. We'll serve with honor and distinction, but you need to understand something about humans. What's that? We've been perfecting the art of war against each other for millennia. We've gotten very, very good at it. The question you should be asking isn't what we can do for the Empire. Elena finished the thought. It's what happens if the Empire ever gives us a reason to consider it an enemy. They walked away, leaving Zektor standing in the corridor. His four hands clenched involuntarily as he processed their words. He thought about those shadow operators Marcus had mentioned. Humans with no official record, no confirmed numbers, just ghosts with rifles and patience. Later that night in his quarters, Zektor accessed the Empire's database on Earth. The human homeworld was listed as a Class 12 civilization, barely spacefaring, technologically inferior, militarily negligible. He stared at that classification for a long time, then submitted a formal recommendation to upgrade Earth's threat assessment. The next morning, new orders came through. Marcus and Elena were to be given unlimited resources and clearance for their next mission. The target was a terrorist cell that had plagued the Empire for years, hiding in the asteroid fields of the Nexus system. 47 high-value targets, Zektor briefed them, spread across 17 different asteroids. They move constantly, never staying in one place more than a few days. We've tried assault teams, bombardment, even negotiation. Nothing has worked. Marcus studied the tactical display with the same intense focus he'd shown before. Environmental conditions? No atmosphere, minimal gravity. You'd need specialized equipment. We've operated in vacuum before, Elena interrupted. Earth's military has been practicing space combat scenarios since the 2030s. Of course they had, Zektor thought. Of course, humans had been preparing to kill each other in space before they even had proper spacecraft. "How long do you need?" he asked. Marcus and Elena conferred quietly, running calculations on their datapads. 6 days, Marcus announced. "We'll need a small craft with minimal heat signature, and our rifles will need modifications for zero-atmosphere operation." 6 days for 47 targets? Zektor couldn't hide his skepticism. "We'll have to work in shifts," Elena explained. "One shooting, one spotting and calculating. The asteroid field provides excellent cover, and the lack of atmosphere means no sound to give away our position." As they left to prepare, Zektor called up their service records again. Marcus Kane, 347 confirmed kills. Elena Vasquez, 198. He wondered what those numbers would be after the Nexus mission. He wondered if he really wanted to know. The asteroid field of the Nexus system hung in space like a frozen storm, millions of rocks, ranging from pebbles to mountains, spinning in their eternal dance. Hidden among them were the terrorists who had haunted the Empire for decades, the Crimson Veil, a fanatical organization that believed the Empire's unification was an abomination against natural order. Commander Zektor stood in the observation deck of the stealth corvette Shadow Whisper, watching Marcus and Elena make their final preparations. They had spent 3 days modifying their rifles for vacuum operation, adding specialized recoil dampeners, and creating custom ammunition that would function in zero atmosphere. "Still think this is impossible?" muttered Captain Vosk, a 6-limbed Arachnari who commanded the vessel. "Even if they can make the shots, the Veil will scatter after the first kill. They always do." "The humans seem confident," Zektor replied, though privately he shared the captain's doubts. Marcus and Elena entered the observation deck, fully suited in modified vacuum armor. It was Empire technology, but they had made numerous alterations, removed parts they deemed unnecessary, added attachment points for their equipment, painted it in a pattern that would break up their silhouettes against the asteroid backdrop. "We're ready, Commander," Marcus announced through his helmet comm. "Insertion point?" Zektor highlighted a section of the asteroid field on the tactical display. "This cluster provides good sight lines to 7 of the suspected hideouts, but sensor scans show—" "Sensor scans don't matter," Elena interrupted. "The Veil aren't looking for 2 humans with rifles. They're looking for assault ships and boarding parties." They made their way to the airlock. The plan was simple in concept, terrifying in execution. The 2 humans would drift through the asteroid field, using minimal thruster movement, positioning themselves for optimal shots. No support, no backup, just 2 humans with modified projectile weapons against terrorists who had evaded the Empire's best forces for years. "Marcus!" Zektor called out as they reached the airlock. "What happens if you miss in zero gravity? Won't the recoil send you spinning?" The human's voice carried a hint of amusement through the comm. "Commander, we don't miss." The airlock cycled, and they were gone, 2 small figures drifting into the vast darkness between the asteroids. Zektor returned to the command center where multiple screens showed various sensor feeds and communication intercepts. For 6 hours, nothing happened. The terrorists continued their regular activities, moving between asteroids in small, fast ships, maintaining their hidden bases carved into the rock. They had no idea death was drifting silently toward them. The first indication came from a Veil communication intercept. "Base 3 isn't responding to hails." A panicked voice crackled through their monitored channels. "Sent a team to check. They found... By the void, they're all dead. Single holes through their helmets. No blast damage, no sign of attack." "Impossible," another voice responded. "Our sentries would have seen any approach. Check the..." The transmission cut off. "Sir," the communication officer reported, "we've lost the signal from Outpost 7. On the tactical display, markers representing known Veil positions began to flicker and disappear." One by one, with methodical precision, the terrorist bases went dark. How are they doing this? Captain Vosk's multiple eyes darted between displays. We're not detecting any weapons fire, any energy signatures. Zektor pulled up the trajectory analysis. They're using the asteroid's rotation, timing their shots for when targets pass through specific windows. The bullets are traveling for kilometers through vacuum, arriving with no warning. A new transmission burst through the Veil's encrypted channels. This time it was their leader, a Corvan known as the Red Prophet. All units, Emergency Protocol 7. We're under attack by unknown forces. Evacuate immediately. Repeat. Evacuate. The transmission ended in a gurgle. The tactical display showed chaos. Veil ships launched from hidden bases, only to drift powerless moments later as their pilots died at the controls. Some terrorists tried to flee on foot across asteroid surfaces, bounding in the low gravity. They made it 3, maybe 4 leaps before crumpling, their suits venting atmosphere through perfectly placed holes. "By the Emperor," someone whispered. "They're not just killing them, they're hunting them." After 4 days, the Veil tried to negotiate. A wideband transmission flooded all channels. "To whoever is attacking us, we surrender. We'll turn ourselves over to Empire authority. Just stop the killing." The Empire forces waited for Marcus or Elena to respond. Instead, the killing continued. Every Veil member who showed themselves, even to surrender, fell moments later. "Shouldn't we tell them to accept the surrender?" Captain Vosk asked. Zektor shook his head slowly. The humans were clear. No prisoners. The Empire has offered the Veil chances to surrender before. This time we tasked the humans with elimination, not capture. On the 5th day, the few remaining Veil members tried one last, desperate tactic. They gathered their remaining ships and made a break for open space, all at once, hoping some would survive through sheer numbers. 23 ships launched simultaneously from different asteroids, accelerating hard toward the edge of the field. For a moment, it seemed like some might escape. Then the lead ship's cockpit erupted in a shower of crystallized atmosphere. The pilot was dead before he could react. The second ship suffered the same fate moments later. Then the third. "Calculating firing solutions," the tactical officer reported, his voice filled with awe. "They're compensating for target velocity, acceleration, gravitational influences from multiple asteroids. These calculations would challenge our best fire control computers." "They're doing it in their heads," Zektor realized. "Or with whatever primitive devices they carry." Ship after ship fell, pilots eliminated with surgical precision. The last vessel, seeing the fate of its companions, tried to surrender by shutting down its engines and broadcasting distress signals. It drifted for exactly 13 seconds before its pilot joined the rest. On the 6th day, as promised, Marcus and Elena requested extraction. The Shadow Whisper moved carefully through the now silent asteroid field to retrieve them. They drifted back into the airlock looking no different than when they'd left, as if they'd simply been on a routine spacewalk. In the debriefing that followed, the numbers were staggering. 89 confirmed kills between them. Every single member of the Crimson Veil, including support personnel and those who had tried to surrender. The terrorist organization that had plagued the Empire for decades had been erased in less than a week by 2 humans with what the Empire considered primitive weapons. "How?" Admiral Thrace asked during the holo conference that followed. "How did you maintain accuracy over such distances in a 3-dimensional combat environment?" Elena pulled up a display showing their shot patterns. "We mapped the entire asteroid field in the first 2 days, calculated rotation speeds, orbital patterns, gravitational effects. Once we had the math, it was just patience and timing." "Just patience and timing," the Celestari repeated, its glow flickering in what might have been disbelief. "You eliminated an entire terrorist network with patience and timing." "And bullets," Marcus added dryly. The conference room fell silent as the full implications sank in. The Empire had weapons that could destroy planets, ships that could fold space, technology that seemed like magic. But two humans with projectile weapons had accomplished something all that advancement couldn't. "I have a question," the Thraxian general spoke up. "During the operation, the Veil tried to surrender. You didn't accept. Why?" Marcus's expression didn't change. "Our mission parameters were clear. Elimination of all targets." "But they surrendered," the general pressed. "In civilized warfare—" "With respect, General," Elena interrupted, "humanity's experience with terrorism taught us that today's surrender can be tomorrow's regrouping. The Empire tasked us with ensuring the Crimson Veil would never threaten you again. We completed that task." "Every last one of them," someone murmured. "Every last one," Marcus confirmed. The Celestari's form pulsed with shifting colors. "Commander Zektor, you will compile a full report on human combat capabilities. I want to know everything: their training methods, their equipment, their psychological profiles." "Yes, Excellence." "And inquire about acquiring more human specialists. If two can accomplish this—" The Celestari trailed off, leaving the thought unfinished. As the conference ended, Zektor found himself alone with the two humans once again. They were packing their equipment, preparing to return to their quarters. "Can I ask you something?" Zektor said. "Off the record?" Marcus looked up from cleaning his rifle. "Go ahead." "Your species' history of violence, your wars, the killing, do you ever regret it? Wish humanity had developed differently?" The two humans exchanged one of their meaningful glances. This time, Zektor thought he could almost read it, a shared understanding born from their violent heritage. "Our history made us what we are," Elena said finally. "We're not proud of all of it. The wars, the genocide, the countless dead, but it also taught us something vital." "What's that?" "That peace is worth fighting for," Marcus said. "The Empire offers stability, protection, a chance for species to work together instead of destroying each other. We've seen what happens without that. Our graveyards are full of the results." "So we'll fight for the Empire," Elena added. "We'll be your snipers, your hunters in the dark, because we know what happens when civilization fails." Zektor watched them leave, carrying their ancient design weapons, wearing their simple armor. He thought about Earth's classification in the Empire's database, Class 12, militarily negligible. He thought about two humans who had just eliminated 89 targets in conditions that would challenge the Empire's best warriors. He thought about shadow operators with no official records, about centuries of refined killing techniques, about a species that had turned warfare into science and art combined. That night, he didn't just recommend upgrading Earth's threat assessment, he recommended creating an entirely new classification system, one that accounted for not just technology, but for the terrible, refined efficiency of a species that had spent its entire history perfecting the art of war. The response came back within hours, signed by the Emperor himself. Earth was to be reclassified as a strategic asset, first class. Human military specialists were to be recruited immediately, with full Empire resources at their disposal. And attached was a personal note from the Celestari. "Ensure these humans remain our allies, Commander. I have seen the recordings. I have studied their history. The Empire is mighty. But I sleep better knowing their rifles point outward at our enemies, not inward at us." Zektor couldn't argue with that sentiment. He'd watched Marcus and Elena work. He'd seen what two humans could accomplish with patience, mathematics, and bullets. He tried not to think about what an entire army of them could do. As he filed his final report, one thought kept returning. The humans had a saying Marcus had mentioned during their first meeting: "One shot, one kill." Such a simple philosophy, such devastating results. The Empire had welcomed humanity as minor partners, amusing primitives with their projectile weapons and warlike history. Now, as reports poured in from across the galaxy of commanders requesting human sniper teams, Zektor realized the truth. The Empire hadn't recruited humanity. Humanity had allowed itself to be recruited, and somewhere on a small blue planet in a backwater sector, there were millions more humans, waiting, training, perfecting arts of war the galaxy had never imagined. The Empire slept peacefully that night, protected by its vast fleets and advanced technology. And in the shadows between the stars, human snipers drifted silent and patient, their crosshairs trained on the enemies of civilization. One shot, one kill, one species that had turned death into an art form, now serving as the Empire's most precise instruments of war. The galaxy would never be the same.